The biggest work-related deduction is car expense. Myself Vinayak Hegde. Today I am going to present about the work-related car expenses in depth. Before we start, let us try to understand what is car as defined under the work-related car expenses under the income tax. So, motor vehicle with a carrying capacity of less than 1 ton or fewer than 9 passengers. So, 9 is not allowed. So, up to 8 passengers are allowed. Are categorized as a car. So, motorcycle is not a car because it's not a motor vehicle. It doesn't fit in that description. And any other utility vehicle or any vehicle with a carrying capacity of more than 1 ton or 9 or more passengers will not be considered as a car. Hence, the expenses incurred for that kind of vehicle we cannot claim under the work-related car expenses. Secondly, the ownership. The car should be owned by you. So if you want to claim the work-related car expenses, you should own the car, or it could be like a purchase, or it could be on the lease. So or the hire purchase arrangement. So it should be owned. So if the car is owned by somebody else and you are claiming the work-related expenses, then you cannot do that. So you can only claim the if you have incurred any running cost or expenses as a work-related travel expenses. Thirdly, the expenses or the travel of the car should be done in the course of performing your work duties. So if you have incurred any or if you have traveled for any personal use, personal travel, so those kind of travel will not be categorized under the work-related expenses and you cannot claim the work-related expense for the car for that travel. Then what kind of trips you are eligible to claim? Attending a meeting away from your usual workplace, driving a conference, collecting, delivering items or supplies. See, if you are working in multiple jobs at the same time, so travel from one job to second job or third job without reaching back to the home, you can claim that as a travel expenses. And from your normal workplace or from your home, if you are directly going to a third, which is an alternative workplace, which is not your regular workplace, then that travel you can claim, and vice versa. So if you are coming from your alternative workplace to home directly or to your usual workplace, that travel will be treated as a work-related travel and you can claim the deduction. Travel between your home and workplace. So if you are traveling from your home to workplace or workspace to home, then this travel will be treated as a personal and you cannot claim the deduction for the travel cost. So there are little exceptions for this rule. So exception is, suppose if you are have to use or if you have to carry a bulky tools or equipment, which is like your work related equipment, and you have to carry daily and using your car, and you cannot leave that tools in your office. In such cases, you can claim the travel from home to office. Secondly, suppose if your home was a base of your employment, that is, you are starting the work at home, and that's as part of your regular employment, so that's how it is. And after you performing, after you work for few hours or something, then you are traveling to your work and you are continuing to your work. In such cases, you are allowed to claim the work-related travel from from home to office. Thirdly, third exception is if you had shifting place of employment, that is, you regularly work at more than one site each day before returning to home. In such cases as well, you can claim the travel expenses from office to home. If there is a relocation expense could be like you are shifting, like you are transferring from one place to another place in your same employment or same employer, or it could be you are changing your employment with a different employer and you are shifting from one location to another location. That in that case, in both the circumstances, whatever travel expenses you incur which cannot be claimed. Methods to claim the work-related car expenses. So then what are the methods? Mainly we have two methods. One is cents per kilometer method and second one is logbook method. So cents per kilometer method is a very simple method And logbook method is a little detailed method, and there are pros and cons for both the methods. Try to understand the cents per kilometer method. So under cents per kilometer method, so ATO has prescribed the fixed rate per kilometer of your travel. So this fixed rate will vary from year to year. For the financial year 2022-23, the rate is 0.78 per kilometer. It's a per kilometer per car it is. Suppose if you are using a car for your work, say 1000 kilometers you have traveled in a financial year, then you can claim 1000 multiplied by 0.78, which becomes $780 as a work related car expenses under the cents per kilometer method. It's a very simple method. You don't need to have records of all the running expenses of the car and not a lengthy workings. So you are just need to know what is the actual number of kilometers you have used your car for your work purpose. For that, you need to keep a proper records of that. Secondly, there is a maximum cap for the number of kilometers that you claim under this method. The maximum kilometer is 5000 kilometers. So if you have done any work related travel in a financial year for a total kilometer more than 5000, then you cannot claim the kilometers more than 5000. So you are limited to claiming up to 5000 kilometer. So 5000 kilometer is equal to, or which means, so you can claim up to $3,900 per car, that 5000 kilometer multiplied by 0.78. So that is the maximum expense you can claim per car. Suppose if you are using multiple cars, so if you are using three cars, so then you will get a up to 5000, 5000, 5000, total 15,000. Again, you have to use each of those cars for up to 5000 or more number of kilometers in that financial year for work related purpose. And the important thing is you don't need to record or keep any of the receipts or the invoices for fuel expense, registration, insurance, repairs, or anything for this under this method. But you need to have a record showing this is the number of kilometers you have traveled for work purpose, and which is not doesn't include any ineligible travels. Let's go to the next method, logbook method. Under logbook method, you are claiming based on the work-related use percentage of the actual expenses incurred for the car. So here the two things, all the expenses like running expenses like fuel, registration, insurance, repairs and maintenance, decline in value of the car, which is depreciation, and interest on car loan if you have actually paid, and lease payments if the car is purchased or taken on lease. In that case, you can claim the lease payments. So you will list out all the actual expenses incurred in that financial year, and then you will multiply with the work related use percentage of the car. Let's try to understand how this work related percentage will come. So what ATO says, you need to keep a logbook in order to calculate the work related use percentage. So logbook should be kept for at least 12 weeks, 12 continuous weeks. So if you have purchased a car in 2022-23 financial year, then you need to prepare a new logbook for 12 weeks and get and calculate the work related use percentage, and same percentage you can use for next 5 years unless your usage is changed. Suppose if your pattern of usage has got changed, then you need to again calculate or maintain the logbook for a period of 12 weeks and get the new work related percentage, and then use the same for calculating the work related car expenses. So in this method, so you need to have the invoices or receipt for each and every actual expenses incurred for the car, like running costs, fuel, registration, insurance, repairs and maintenance, and everything. You need to have the proper record. And but in case of the fuel, you don't need to keep the receipts. You can even use the odometer reading. So if there is a odometer reading at the beginning of the financial year and end of the financial year, the difference, like whatever the total kilometers traveled in the financial year, and using the average fuel cost in that financial year, you can use to calculate the fuel cost incurred for the car. But for any other car expenses, you need to have the receipts or the invoices from the suppliers or vendors. Let's understand how the logbook will be. So logbook, what are the contents of the logbook? So logbook, the objective, as I mentioned, like as the objective of the logbook is to calculate the work related percentage of the car usage. We need to maintain all the journeys in the logbook, showing the like each and every journey, whether it's a private or work related purpose, and what is the starting odometer reading, and after journey what is the odometer reading, so the difference, how much kilometer we used, and if it is work related or the private use, like that you are maintaining each and everything. So the ATOS clearly gives a guideline as to what are the contents. Let's go through the same: the make, model, engine capacity and registration number of the car, when the logbook period starts and ends, and the odometer reading at these times, date the journey began and ended, odometer reading at the start and end of each journey, kilometers traveled on each of the journey, reason for the journey, work related or personal, the total number of kilometers the car traveled during the logbook period, the number of kilometers traveled for the work during the logbook period. You need to record all the business trips and personal trips in your logbook. Once you have the logbook, then you need to calculate the work related use percentage. So which is nothing but kilometers used for work divided by total kilometers traveled. So let us take an example. Adam, who is a sales manager, and he kept a logbook for 12 weeks. And as per that, the total kilometer traveled in the in that 12 weeks period is 800 kilometers. Out of this, 650 kilometers he has traveled for the work related trips. Then his work rate percentage became 650 divided by 800, which is 81.25%. That means 81.25% of the car is used for the work in that logbook period. And if it is same pattern, so we have to use the same percentage for claiming the work related expense for the whole financial year, and even for the next 5 years until next 4 years, that is including current financial total 5 years, and if there is no change in the pattern of usage. So then let's take an example, like if he has a total car expenses including the depreciation, interest, everything, $8,000, then his work related car expense deduction will be 8,000 multiplied by 81.25%, which becomes 6,500. Depreciation on car. So car depreciation should be done at the ATO prescribed rate, and there is a cap. So ATO has given a depreciation limit for the car. In case of the car is above the limit, we can claim the depreciation only up to the amount of 64,741. So this limit is applicable for financial year 2023, and the limit is gradually increasing every year, and ATO is prescribing the limit for each year. The rate of depreciation applicable for 2023 financial year is 25% under the diminishing value method. So ATO will give both the diminishing value method and straight line method depreciation rates. We can use one of those which is beneficial to us. And if the car is purchased in any of the earlier financial years, then we need to follow the same what we have used in the previous year and continue the depreciation applied on the opening return down value. So following expenses cannot be claimed under the work-related car expenses. So expenses for the vehicle, which is with a carrying capacity of 1 ton or more than 9 passengers, in such cases, we cannot claim under the work-related car expenses. In such cases, we have to claim under the D2, which is a work-related travel expenses category. So expenses for motorcycle, short-term car hire, public transport fares, air travel or taxi fares, bridge and road tolls, parking fees and taxi fares, petrol, oil repairs costs, like all the running costs. If we are using a car which is not owned by us, owned by somebody else, So meal accommodation and incidental expenses you incurred while away from overnight for the work. So all these expenses we are claiming under the work related travel expenses, and we are not able to claim under the work related car expense. What if your employer has already reimbursed you for car expenses? So if your employer has already reimbursed the car expenses, so you have incurred the expenses and employer has already reimbursed, and whatever the reimbursement received will not come as income in your income statement. Hence, the expenses which you have incurred also should not be claimed under the work-related car expense or in fact any other label. If you receive a travel allowance, suppose if you have received a travel allowance from your employer, so what happens is like the travel allowance is like a salary income, and which will be reported in the under the income statement, and PAYG withholding is also applicable on that. So whatever the travel allowance given will be treated as a income in your tax return as well, and actual expenses incurred can be claimed as a deduction under the work related car expense or under whatever the label applicable. Suppose if you stopped using a particular car which you have been claiming the work related car expenses from say last few years, so then what happens? So when you either like you maybe stop using the car for work related use purpose, or you might have sold the car. So there are two possibilities. So in both the possibilities, so what we are going to do is like there is it is called as a balancing adjustment event. So in case of balancing adjustment event, so the termination value less written down value, the difference. So if it is a positive, we have to treat as a taxable income, and if it is a negative, that is termination value minus written down value of the car, the difference. If it is a negative, we are able to claim additional deduction in the tax return. Again, if the work related use is say 30% or 50%, so same percentage of the balancing adjustment amount should be taken as an income or should be claimed as a deduction. I hope I have covered the entire work related car expense in detail. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll try to help you with those things. Thank you. Thank you for watching.